Louise, take
Yes.
us back into the best practices of conflict management.
Okay, well, I've thrown a few things down here on paper so that I can remember. But just in terms of to say as a belief that I have that every conflict well done can bring us to a new place in a relationship. It can be a real win. It's like another stitch in the tapestry. It's another flick of the paint on the great painting of your life together. So conflict is really good. Good conflict is good. Conflict because it produces something, or it can produce. So I've got a list of a few things here which I've put down. First thing is, we have to be able to communicate and to converse. We have to be able to express what we think and how we feel. And we have to give each other time for that. When we're conflicting, we need to take responsibility for ourselves, not the other person. So we're talking about the I words. I am feeling this. I think this. My experience of what happened to us yesterday was this. So you're personalizing it to yourself, and that is taking responsibility. And you really we have to learn how to seriously listen to one another. And if we're not clear what the other person is saying, not arguing, but asking back, repeating back, so that we are understanding what the other is actually communicating, not what we think they are communicating. So that active listening. And then this is big for me, okay? Just very personally, acknowledgement.
Okay, yeah.
You know, acknowledgement is, there is nothing worse than giving of yourself, spilling the beans all over of your feelings and your thoughts, and for somebody just to move swiftly on, or even to apologize quickly. Oh, I'm sorry about that. Yeah, I get you. Move on. No, there has to be an acknowledgement. Must be at the very least an acknowledgement of what the other is saying.
I suppose the definition, isn't it, of active listening. So
Yes.
I'm listening not to prove my point, and I'm listening not to react to you, but I'm listening in a way that responds. And you do have to check yourself. How am I listening to you? Am I listening to you to respond in a way that goes, I hear you? Or is it straight? Well, I think that, and you watch it in conversations. You watch yourself doing it in conversations.
And if you do it well, because sometimes, let's say with Nigel, I will express something, and if he expresses or reflects back to me what I've said, then sometimes I go, oh no, that's not really what I meant. You are telling me what I said, but it's not really what I meant. And he can actually help me to express myself better. But can I say, that's an art, because you have to have, the emotions have to be laid down in order to, import something of your true self, and hope that this is going to help. So you're really being your best self in getting it out there. And again, I'm talking about this in a solid situation where there is trust and there is a level of honor. And that's why building that equity with one another is so important. You can't conflict well if there isn't trust and honor. So just to say,
the psychological safety. Yes,
exactly, psychological safety.
Can I ask you, Nigel, because you've clearly got this down to an art in that you're able to reflect back to her, so she goes, these are my.
That would be so nice. If I could say, I have this in an art form. I think this is one of the great challenges in the men are from Mars and women are from Venus or whatever thing, because as a man, I'm operating out of logic and I'm operating out of facts.
Yes.
I mean, our big discussion often is, well, the fact of the matter is, and Louise is going, but that's not how I feel. And so we have to reach a place where she understands there's facts that don't reflect her feelings, and I get to the place where equally her feelings are more important than the facts. And that's a real
they
challenge.
can feel like they're more important.
Well, they feel like they're more important.
Yeah.
And so, then you're back into the other things we've talked about. That's the ideal situation where there's a touch that actually reduces all the conflict that comes with that type of thing. But I mean, what Louise has said is right, and it's some of the biggest challenges. Now, we've huge trust with each other, but she can see something entirely differently to the way I have, and that it can be a real source of conflict, which we have to manage. And I really like this term, conflict management, because you've got to manage something.
Yes,
and that's really, really important.
Yeah.
Does that answer?
It does. It's interesting then. I know we've got an episode talking about the differences between men and women, but it's worth a kind of a 90-second drop down into it, because you're really talking conflict management there. I mean, you'll say to me sometimes, do you want me to respond like a girl, or do you want me to respond like a boy, man or a woman? Because
how do you want me to listen or respond in this situation?
And actually, although it sounds like you've never really said that to me. I don't, maybe once or twice, but in 26 years of marriage, when you said that to me, it's not a condescending.
Yeah.
It can be a condescending thing. Do you want me to listen like a girl? Do you want me to listen to a boy? But you've been more like, Emma, you're in a place and you're hyped up about whatever I'm hyped up about. How do you need me to be right now?
That's the question. What do you need right now? But again, not in a condescending, but in a genuine. I mean, I love that. We can actually circumnavigate even conflict resolution when Nigel says to me, what do you actually need right now? Because sometimes I don't need a discussion, but it's the only vehicle I have. But actually inside, I'm going, actually, I'm just upset. All I need is a hug. All I need is a hug.
How common is that actually?
Very
the case?
common. Very common. And this kind of leaks slightly into.
Well, what I would say is this: it's massively common, and very rarely communicated. So as a man,
I think that's fair.
Well, I'm going to say as a man, maybe I'm
fair.
offending a whole load of women by this or a whole load of men. But as a bloke, there's a good phrase, I'm a bloke. I don't pick up that actually what you need is a hug. It's like you're coming at me and I'm defending myself.
You're looking hostile,
So we have to get through that, and we do, to the place where we go, she needs a hug, and then we can actually talk about the issue easily. And I think that's very challenging in marriage. I mean, I've recently trained as a spiritual director. We spent a year learning how to actively listen. I can do that to a spiritual directee. Another thing altogether, when all my emotions are involved in listening to my wife, who's not my spiritual directee, and trying to unpick that in a certain way. So there are challenges we have to face.
Which again comes down to the sacrifice, the bearing with one another and the preferring one another. Because in conflict, if I'm honestly preferring our marriage and our covenant, I'm not going to want to do or say anything that's going to do anything other than build that. And this does sound theoretical, or maybe a little bit, it's, that's sounds wonderful. But in the heat of the moment, I think we can learn to conflict better and better and better and better. So it's quicker, it's easier.
Yes.
And that you're always
definitely
after the win. I mean, I have learned that when I have a negative trigger, when I'm annoyed and I need to work something out with Nigel, I have learned to tell myself, oh, good, there's something in me that is going to get shifted and changed, and it's not going to be up to him. It'll be up to the way that I engage. And for that bit of irritation, my win is going to be righteousness, joy, and peace. And that gives me I'm up for it, rather than the hiding, which we very often do. We can talk a little bit about the different ways that we often operate in conflict and in life generally.
I think the take from what we're saying here, and let's be direct with you, most of you, when you come to see us or you're watching our lives, there is a sense that, you come to us because you're in a fever pitch, like scream of a 98%, and you're 2% away from this is over. you know. Listen to this journey here where the choosing of each other every day over years, and it's never too late to start. I'm pointing right at you. It's never too late to start. It is never too late to start. And the sense of, I want mature love. I want to learn the art of sacrifice. We're not in the 4 A's that lead to divorce. We're in something else of your phrase, I want the win.
Yeah.
And if you are in the place where you can, if you're listening to this video, it's because you want something to work or be improved. So you're in the higher place.
Yes.
I think there are some people who are in conflict, or some people who are given over to things. They're not watching this video because they can't. They're in whatever crisis they're in. They're reaping the whatever they're reaping. But if you're watching this, you're in that higher place. So you have an opportunity to, rather than say, look, we're in this conflict situation. I'm not going to step down, though. I'm going to make sure, I'm not even going to explain why I'm feeling this or how I want to be responded, because I want them to suffer. I want them to, but you're able to take the higher place and say, God, I want to be able to understand what's gone wrong, where in me, first of all. Now, maybe I'm the innocent party in all of this, but I want to understand, God, first, is there anything in me? God, would you give me the grace to see what the root is in this situation, whether it's me, whether it's him, her, and so that I can come at this a different way, so that I can maybe open myself up again to explain what we need in this thing. So Emma was talking about how do I respond as a man or a woman in this situation? So I maybe don't ask that question now, but certainly it's going on in my head. David, shut up, David. Don't go to the fix it thing, because instantly I want to bring, well, what if we try this solution or that solution? And I know that that's going to just make matters worse, because that is not what is needed. It needs that we're calling it a female response, but that's
true.
It can be. It's where it goes, where, oh, that's awful. That must have felt awful. I'm really sorry that happened to you. That kind of response. But everything in me is going, yeah, but can we just skip to the bit where actually I give here's what we need to do.
The solution.
Yeah. And you have to fight inside yourself as well. But also, I would say to Emma in that situation, if you could just give us a hint anyway, that would just, and instead, rather than us having to do this dance of he doesn't understand me, oh, she never says things in a way I understand. There are times we could help each other because we ultimately want the same thing.
And then in the good times, when you're not in conflict, to have those conversations of what we need and what helps. So then hopefully we will remember. And it takes practice, and it takes, at my worst moments, I know I've said to Nigel, it wouldn't matter if I wrote it on the walls. You still wouldn't get it. It's just true.
Sad thing is, it's probably true.
Yeah. But in the good times is taking the time to understand one another and what we need. And this, spills over into things like, love languages. I am a very, very simple creature. And so heads up.
Oh, yeah,
really,
she is. Yeah.
I'm not complicated in this sense.
In that area.
I'm very complicated in some areas, because we're all complex and wonderfully made, gloriously made. But if I'm in bad form and if I'm really upset with you, really all you have to do is come. And if you're sincere, you have to be sincere, but just put a hand on my shoulder, because I'm a physical touch person. Yeah. And say something appreciative about me that is heartfelt. And I melt in a moment. I am just like putty, because I'm words of affirmation and physical touch person. Whereas if I did that to Nigel, it would have absolutely no effect whatsoever. Really? But I'll tell you what.
Buy me something.
Buy him something.
Oh, okay. Gifts.
He's a happy man.
For the tape, gifts, love language.
Or acts of service.
Shower them on me.
Do you have a little cupboard then of like gifts for a rainy day?
Because this is the thing. I think God laughs. I think he sits in his heaven and he laughs. because I am really useless at buying gifts. I'm just not good at that.
Unbelievably bad.
And I've got it wrong during the years. And now I'm hardwired now that when I think about Nigel, I say, Lord, you're going to have to help me here because I know gifts touches his heart. And this is where it is the honing of me, developing that in me so that I can learn to buy gifts. And the other thing is, he loves acts of service. He's brilliant at buying me gifts and brilliant at acts of service. But I don't want gifts.
And they wash off for like...
acts of service.
I don't want a gift either. Can't.
I can go and buy something for myself.
Yes.
And I can pay somebody
I am with you on that.
For acts of service. The only acts of service I want from him are the things that only a husband can do.
Yes.
That's what I will take.
Yes.
But he has to learn to give me words of affirmation and physical touch, which are not his love languages.
And
God has put us together. And it's quite a joke, isn't it?
Well, it is a joke. And like 25 years into marriage, Louise discovers I love gifts. There's been 25 years worth of birthdays where there's been no gifts.
In our early years.
In her early years. She made up for it, though. Referring to a previous episode, she made up to it on my 60th. She bought me a new soft top for my MX-5 Mazda.
So we're back to cars again,
as a gift. Just amazing.
And but for me, it's cups of tea.
Oh yeah.
I see you every morning, David, when I'm staying here making cups of tea.
Seriously.
I admire it.
Not for you and me.
It's not for us. And one morning I came back up with my coffee. You see me making my coffee. And Louise had the door open in the bedroom and I was heading off into the place to have my quiet time with my cup of coffee and my Bible. And he says, did you not get me a cup of tea? And I'm like, guilt everywhere as David has headed off with his cup of tea for Emma.
But Nigel and Louise are living with us at the moment. If you wonder what's
just
going
in
on.
case things are weird and all that.
Weird
in the Stark orphanage.
Yeah.
Yes. But if you bring me a cup of tea, I'm like putty in your hands for the whole day. I find it very difficult to get cross with you if you've brewed just a cup of tea in the morning because I'm like,
But to me, it seems
simple.
it seems so banal. It seems so sometimes it's a strange thing, gentlemen. It's a strange thing. If you find it, just do it. Don't question it.
That's a good one, David. Don't question it.
Because it doesn't to a man that doesn't make any sense. Why would something that you do you do it every day? It's just this. It's just so. But clearly, there must
be something in it.
And
I would beg Louise not to make me a cup of coffee because her coffee making is really.
He doesn't think I make
it's the repetitiveness of it. It's the repetitiveness of finding that thing, whether it's the touch, as you said, or whether it's the gift, or whether it's the years of repetition. How many years have you brought me a cup of tea?
Well, I think I actually did it. I don't know whether it's consistently, but I did it before we were even dating.
Oh, but yes, that's true.
Yes, so must have been part of my seduction technique as well.
I'm going to look at the date.
Irish, you were seduced by a cup of tea.
30 years.
That's brilliant.
This boy brings a cup of tea.
30 years of bringing a cup of tea.
Yeah.
It's a lot of tea bags.
Now it's like...
But it softens the heart, doesn't it?
If you're in Alabama, give me grace, we're European. Now it's like, if you brought yourself a nightcap and not brought me one, and now he's like, right, okay.
Oh dear.
So it's like it's beginning and end of the day.
Well, that's an interesting one.
And
crossing over into other worlds.
I do think that flowers transcend all of this. If you buy flowers, whether you're gifts or not, now maybe it's because you're also going to the act of service. You're going out to do something. You're getting the flowers. You say sorry while you're handing the flowers over, so that's your words as well. And you've maybe a touch while you're doing. You can cover all bases with flowers in a situation. Okay. If in doubt, buy flowers.
Well, they're multisensory, aren't they?
Yes.
Yeah. Very good. Can I go on in my list?
Oh, sorry. Yes.
I was expecting you to turn around and kiss me there or something romantic, but no.
You better get the flowers, David.
Yeah. And here's one I prepared earlier. Have an orange. Can I just say about apologizing sincerely? Because I think that if there's one pet thing I really hate. We were walking down the road the other day together, and I just happened to mention something that had bothered me. And Nigel was looking at something over the other direction. He went, "Oh yeah, sorry." And I just thought, no, sorry, that's not good enough.
Oh,
I
Nigel.
need more than that. Come on, look at me. Because if you mean something, it will show. And what reconnects hearts is at least an acknowledgement, but a sincere apology that's meant. I mean,
but how does that sound to you?
Well, to me, it
Give me
is,
an example.
it is eye contact.
Okay.
Thank you, Emma.
That's it. You're letting him off the hook.
Yes.
At the very least, there has to be eye contact, and there needs to be some level of you can feel that the person is sorry.
So it's the ownership of I am
sorry, which basically means
I am very sorry.
Well, I'm not looking for drama. But I'm just looking for sincerity.
Okay.
And particularly,
which is dramatic to the Irish. Sincerity looks dramatic to the Irish.
And if he wants to get down on his, that's fine. But the point of it is this: I want to feel from whoever it is, and in this case, we're talking marriage, so it would be Nigel, that in his apology, it is, if I had it over again, I would act differently. Or I would speak differently.
So that's repentance.
So it really is repent. Thank you, David. It really is repentance. Sorry is such a cheap word. You need to be able to feel it so that there's an ownership on that side. And then there must be forgiveness. There must you need then to forgive.
Yes.
And I actually think that even saying I forgive you and releasing forgiveness is a very powerful thing to do. Not only relationally, but I think in the spirit, it's a very powerful thing to do. And then it is null. You're rendering it null and void. And then you can, of course, have, you can then when you've had that piece together, you get creative about solutions, because then life comes back in, because you've dealt with, hopefully you've dealt with the hurt, or you've the acknowledgement, repentance, forgiveness is there. And then it's like, okay, well, what could we do about that? Because obviously it's a problem, or if it is. And then you can get creative, because suddenly you've got energy. The worst thing about bad conflict, and when relational circuits are off, your ability to be creative, to think solutions, to have adventure, to be curious at how things could be better, is massively limited. So let's deal with the limitations, get the circuits back on, get acknowledgement, get repentance, forgiveness. And even if you don't fully understand, but your heart is to forgive and your heart is to apologize, and then get creative. How can we make sure that never happens again and something better happens instead?
I'm going to ask you about attachment styles.
Yes.
You did make me giggle in Nigel and you, Louise, in different attachment styles, and how. Oh yeah. And this is neat. This is neat to know. I hope.
Sorry, when you say attachment styles, I just think of koala bears. That's what comes into my mind. I just think of a koala bear like in a tree.
No idea where that went. Okay.
I'm intrigued as to what this is going to be.
But what I hope people are seeing here is what is possible. Nigel and Louise, you're the longevity here, 37 years. I hope what you're seeing here is what is possible. We have a good marriage. 26 years.
Very good marriage.
Very good marriage.
Very good, thank you. And you have a great marriage. 37.
Yes, we're still here.
These days it's almost the stuff of miracles, so it shouldn't be. But the sense is, what we're gleaning together is it's this art, isn't it?
Yes.
It's the art of learning, and this covenant that sits in the middle that we are dealing with so respectfully. So attachment styles. Give us a top line.
Well, we all have an attachment style. There are basically 4 attachment styles. And this is really important because it is how we run our relationships.
Okay.
And what we want is, we all want to have secure attachment. And secure attachment basically is, it comes from our early upbringing, where we were securely attached to our main caregivers. And on the basis of that, what's formed in us is then the ability to securely attach to others.
About belonging, connection, safety, that kind of stuff that we're all looking for.
It's physical safety as well as psychological safety. It's safety at every level. And can I just say that in all of these styles, it's on a spectrum. So I might be very positively, securely attached, but I have a smidgen of something else. So that's where we all want to be, is securely attached. Then we can build good relationships.
And you mean like David and I want to be securely attached to each other.
But you're going to have an insecure attachment style of your own. And there's 3 basic insecure attachments.
Okay.
And the first one I'm going to say is the fearful attachment, and that's because of some dysfunction back in the early days. So you have an anxious attachment. So it's basically called an anxious attachment, but it's basically there's a piece of fear in there. What's going to happen? Maybe you're not going to be there for me. There's always a bit of abandonment and fear that's in there in the way that we have grown and developed in our personhood. The next insecure one.
Hang on. So that kind of fear of abandonment, broken part, will not like words like, do you want me to leave?
No, and they won't like things like when things aren't clear. So it's maybe if there's a problem and the other person won't engage. For somebody who has an anxious attachment style, they can't cope with that because there's a total insecurity around, well, when will it happen? How will it happen? And you feel very lost in that part of you. Yeah. So clarity is often something that's really helpful for people who are having an anxious attachment style. But of course, these are all things that we need to take responsibility for ourselves and seek healing. But being aware of your attachment style helps so that you can help the other. So I would tend to have a little bit of an anxious piece in my being, which is my responsibility to look after and to work at, so that I come fully into a secure place. And for anxious, if you're with an anxious person, reassurance is very important. That helps.
I'm not going to leave you.
Helps
we
to
will
medicate.
Fix this.
Yeah.
I'm sure there will be a solution type is what you're wanting to hear. Yeah. And is that what you're looking for from Nigel then?
Yeah. And whatever reassurance looks like, because it medicates the avoidant piece.
So what shorthand have you found? You must have 3 or 4 sentences that you find that just settle immediately. An anxious responder.
Well, actually, one of the big things is touch, believe it or not.
Yeah.
It's here. Not just words, it's actually, I'm here.
I'm here.
It's okay. It's going to be okay. I'm not going anywhere, because abandonment is a big part of that, isn't it?
Well, it can be, yes. Yeah. So the reassurance is very important. I mean, it is really interesting. If I am in an anxious state, and we're trying to deal with something, literally a hand on the shoulder, and it's not just a tap, but a hand and a weight on my shoulder, I can literally feel the anxiety moving down, and I can come into my true self.
And the crazy thing is, you must be thinking, if I do that and I say I'm not going anywhere, you must think, isn't that flipping blatantly obvious?
Yes.
But yet you make yourself say it because you know you're medicating an anxious response.
Yeah.
We hope you were blessed by that clip. And if you want to watch the full episode, head to Power TV today at www.powertv.app. It's our new place where we host all of our content, including prophecy, live broadcasts, teachings, worksheets, and more. Join us as we reveal the voice of God to the nations through life-changing and life-giving words from God. See you there.